So let's view an actual contract, all right? Okay, this is a commercial contract for a large property here. Can everyone see that? All right, so his description, made effective as the 27th day of March between Timor Investments, the seller, and Roadhouse Investment, LLC, the buyer. Okay, here is a consideration, and here's a sell agreement. So we're going to buy and sell this property, 801 Willie Minor Road, Reno, Oklahoma, as described as Amberwood Apartments, a 77-unit apartment complex. All right, let's scroll up a bit to here. Here, right here, on 1.1, let's scroll down a bit. On 1.1 right here, 1.1 describes the property, the description of the property. 1.2 describes the personal property, all tangible personal property located at the property. Okay? For the operation, ownership, maintenance of the property. All contracts, deposits, instruments, documents of title, business records, collectively the personal property. Okay, next on purchase price, let's scroll up a bit. Here's the purchase price. The purchase price is $1,690,000. So there's a consideration. Next is earnest money. Earnest money. So there's a $25,000 deposit for earnest money. Okay, so far can you see this is like purchasing a home so far, right? There's no difference here. Okay, so basically in this contract we have 7 days after acceptance to deposit the money with the title company. Okay, next is the cash payment. At closing, buyer will pay the seller the balance of the purchase price, subject to adjustment provided in immediately available and current U.S. funds. Okay, let's scroll up a bit. All right, Yeah, financing contingency. Okay, contingencies. This is very important. I'm going to have everyone's attention up here. In contracts, we need contingencies. That's our protection. That is our protection. All right, we need the contracts to be contingent upon something, so just in case something happens, we're protected. Okay, so in commercial real estate, we have 4 contingencies. I want you to write this down. 4 very important ones. If we don't have them in your contract, we need to add them as an additional provision in your contract. Here are the 4. I'm going to show them to you here, but I want you to get these 4 down. The first one is financing contingency. I'll go over that. The second one, we need a inspection contingency. The third one is a title contingency. And the fourth one that people forget about is the appraisal contingency. Okay, those are the 4 main ones. That doesn't mean you cannot have more contingencies. For example, in Texas, we will have an additional contingency, and that's because of all the hurricanes. So the contingency we have in Texas is if my insurance is not satisfactory to me, the premium, I can back out of the deal. 2004, for a 100-unit apartment complex, the insurance rate per door was about $200 per door. It's about $800 a door now because of all the hurricanes. Okay, so insurance has caused a lot of deals to die because of this high rate. So you don't want to go through the whole deal and find out at the end of the day, when everything's non-refundable, that your insurance is too high and it's killing your deal. So we put that contingency in there. So if you have any other contingency that you want placed in there, do it up front. Okay, so financing contingency, 2.3. All right, so we can put terms in here For example, buyer will use his best efforts to obtain a first mortgage of 80% of the purchase price, payable at a maximum interest rate of X% fixed or X% adjustable. Here's another key statement. Within 10 days of offer acceptance, buyer shall provide seller with a letter from the lender of a mortgage broker stating that, based upon the buyer's written application or credit report, buyer is pre-qualified or pre-approved for the loan specified above. Okay? So it didn't say qualified or approved. Key words here. Okay? Pre-approved and pre-qualified means all we have to do is have the lender saying that, Dominic is pre-approved for this loan. They have not looked at the property. The lender has not looked at the property or Dominic's financials. They just pre-approved them. Just like in the old days with the home, right? We get pre-approved for the home without them doing a full research on this. Same thing here. Key language. Now, another important thing is here. Here's a contingency. If the buyer is unable to obtain such a new first mortgage by the closing date, then buyer may cancel this agreement without penalty by sending a written notice to the seller and will receive a full refund of the entire $25,000 earnest money deposit. Okay, so if we can't find a satisfactory loan, we'll send a letter in to the brokers saying we're out of this deal and we're out. All right, next one is appraisal contingency. Can you scroll up a bit? The appraisal contingency. If the appraisal, let's say, the purchase price here is $1.69 million, but the appraisal coming at 1.5. That gives us the right to back out and get a refund of our $25,000 earnest money and cancel the deal. Okay, very important. Next, number 3, title. Title contingency. Let's say that the owner had liens on the property that he didn't know about, that we find out during our title search. If the owner can't pay for those liens, they can be old tax liens, mechanics liens, any type of liens, we can back out of the contract. Okay. Item number 4, time and place of closing. In the contract, scroll up a bit, please. In the contract, we want to state when the closing will occur by. Can you scroll up, please? Okay, time and closing. Item number 5 is very important. I see so many contracts here where this is missing. This is seller deliveries. So these are the things that the seller has to provide for you within 5 business days for you to begin your due diligence. Very important. Seller deliveries, very important. We need the following things. Leases and contracts. We want copies of all the leases. If we're buying 5 units or 200 units, we need access to every single lease. We are in the income business, and we need to confirm the income, right? You do not buy an income property without confirming the income. So we want to confirm every single lease. By the way, you will find out that 10% of the leases will have problems. They will not be signed or will not be valid. That's what you're going to find. Financials. We want 3 years of financials. 3 years of financials. That's what we need. Reports. We want third-party reports. Does he have an inspection report? We want third-party reports. Rent rolls. We need rent rolls. Again, we're confirming the income. We're confirming the income, rent rolls. Rent rolls are like the attendance list of your apartment building. Next is Owner Schedule E. These are the owner's tax returns for the last 3 years. Here's an important reason why we do this. Okay? Really important. Everyone, attention up here. Here's why we want the tax returns. On the income expenses that the owner sends to us is probably from the property manager, and it's probably an Excel spreadsheet. They will send to us saying that the property is reporting $200,000 in income per year. and actuals. That's what they're reporting to us, right? So we go through our analysis and go, oh, this is a great deal. This is a great deal. We jump into contract. We ask for the tax returns that should report what the income is in the property. If it doesn't match up with $200,000 what they're reporting, there's a problem, right? Which one do you believe? Do you believe the tax returns or the Excel spreadsheets? Tax returns, exactly. That's why we ask for that. So many deals are killed because of the discrepancies between the tax return income and the actual reported income from the seller. Okay? 5.6, survey, plans, and engineering documents. If they have any of that stuff, we want it. Permits. We need permits on the property. Any type of permits to operate this property as an apartment building, we want that too. Structural modifications. Has he done any structural modifications? We want copies of all that too, of what they've done. Capital improvements. For the last 3 years, we want to know, have you put in a new parking lot? Have you put in new appliances? Have you put in a new roof? Capital improvements, we want to know what those are. 2 reasons why. Lenders love capital improvements. And secondly, we need to know what to budget for. Every single apartment building has a lifetime to it. It does not go on forever. Every 5 years, you're going to have to do something major to it. Paint, parking lot, roof, every 5 years. So we need to budget for that. So we know up front what he's done, it'll help us with budgeting for this apartment building. Utility bills. Last 12 months. Okay, question to you all. Has utilities gone up or down the last 3 years? Up. Up. That's right. Utility bills, I'm a big stickler for. If the owner's reporting $40,000 a year in water, prove it to me. I want to see letterhead bills that show $40,000 in water. Prove it to me. They keep going up. We want to go back, actually, for utility bills, we want to go back a couple of years too, so you can see the trend, because it will go up next year, right? Most likely. So we want to see what the trend is. Management contracts, property management contracts. We're going to get a copy of all that, any type of management contracts, employee agreements with on-site, off-site managers. What do you have there? Any other type of disclosures we want copies of too. Can you scroll up, please? Okay, so next is seller's deliveries at closing. So at closing, this is what the seller have delivered. A title policy, the deed, the bill of sale. This is a bill of sale for personal property. Okay, now on 6.3, bill of sale, personal property. Here, this is very important. Personal property could mean his computers, tables, furniture, office furniture, lawnmower, all that equipment. You do not want to close on a Friday, come in Monday and find the office completely empty, right? You don't want that to happen. So that's why up front, on the bill of sale, we list here what he's going to leave behind for us. All right, next is assignment assumption, all right, for all the leases. Next is 6.5, tenant security deposits. Now, in 100 units, that can be quite a bit of money. That can be quite a bit of money. I like to add something to this of how I deal with tenant security deposits. Normally when you close, what the closing company would do is they'll add up that $20,000 security deposits and they will just subtract it from your down payment, right? Seem reasonable, right? What I prefer to do is have that money assigned to the escrow account of the property management company. Because if I don't do that, at closing, I have to come up with $20,000 to give to the property management company to cover those security deposits. You see what I mean? Okay, so at closing, have the escrow company assign that assign all the security deposit money to the property management's escrow account for the security deposits. All right. Let's see, more stuff. Evidence of authority, leases and contracts, notice of tenants. 6.8 is very important. This has to do with the transition from the current ownership to your new ownership. And if the transition is done sloppily, you're going to lose tenants. If it's done sloppily, you're going to lose tenants. So up front here, we stipulate notices will be sent to the tenants on exactly what to do so they know. I once had a property that was all Hispanic, and here comes the American guy taking over. Guess what they did? They moved out. They moved out. So I lost tenants, just like that, first week. Because they thought, American guy's coming over, he's going to raise all the rents, he doesn't understand how we operate, I'm out of here. Lien affidavit, guarantees and warranties, sales tax report, non-foreign affidavit, estoppels. Let's talk about that a bit. Okay, estoppels. We normally, even though it's here, we normally do not do estoppels in apartments. We do estoppels with shopping centers and offices. We do estoppels. Basically, what an estoppel is, it's a letter that will stipulate how much the tenant is paying, and it goes back to the seller, it comes back to the tenant, and it goes back to the seller for confirmation, and it comes to us. That just confirms what they're paying. But if you're buying 400 units to get 400 letters, and who keeps track of them? Too much trouble. Most brokers won't go for that. So we don't do estoppels normally. Okay, the next one is number 7, buyer's deliverables. Okay, so this is what I'm going to deliver as the buyer at closing. Cash, the assignment, and here are the closing costs. Number 8, closing costs. Can we scroll up on that, closing costs? I like to have a table of who's responsible for what closing costs. In commercial real estate, you can estimate the closing cost to be 2 or 3% of the purchase price. That's quite a bit. That's quite a bit. Here's a list of the closing costs. We have attorney's fees, we have surveys and abstracts, title work, more recording fees, sales tax, closing fees, mortgage registration, phase 1 if required, appraisal recertification if required. So all these things add up to tens of thousands of dollars. So pay attention to the contract, who pays for what, because it can add up. It can add up quite a bit. All right, let's scroll up here. Okay, number 9, buyer's right of inspection. Here's another one of your contingencies. Okay, this says the seller agrees that the buyer will be permitted a period of 30 days after the execution of the contract by the seller to inspect the property and the physical properties and structures of the property. Gives us 30 days. So the moment you sign it, you have 30 days to go through the property from the roof down to the basement. And if for any reason you don't like what's going on, you can back out. That's what this says. Okay? This inspection also gives you a way to negotiate and make the deal better. Okay, you get 30 days to do this. 9.1, these are just things that we're telling the seller that we want no part of. We want no lawsuits. We want no mechanical liens. We want no bankruptcies. 9.4, that there are a certain number of legal units, government permits, compliance with laws, compliance with ADA. A lot of older properties are exempt from ADA. This is the American Disabilities Act about the width of the doors, ramps for wheelchairs. A lot of old properties are exempt for that because they're old. But new properties are not exempt for that. Material defects, operating order, no contaminants, ownership, no rent control. Now here are the prorations. Now, item number 10, the prorations. We're going to have the real estate taxes, personal property taxes, if there are any, rents and security deposits are going to be prorated and adjusted per the closing date. Item number 11, what's going to happen to the rents at the closing date? Accounts payable, who's responsible and how do we handle the bills that are with the contract at closing? Employee contracts, number 13, how that's going to be addressed. Utility deposits, again, indemnity between the seller and the buyer. Due authorization, casualty loss. Let's scroll up a bit. On 17, this is 17 casualty loss and damage on the property. So basically what this says is while you are in contract, the property is in a certain state. At closing, you want it to be in a similar state, not in a worse state. So it could have had a fire, vandalism, earthquake, anything. So this pretty much protects you from actually having to close with that additional damage. Every contract should have that. Limits are different, but every contract should have that. Okay, number 18, eminent domain, covenant to operate, possession. Here is the brokerage. Let's scroll up here, number 21. All right. Now, buyer and seller agree to indemnify and hold each other harmless of any claim or loss on a compensation due or alleged to be due as a leasing or management fee. Number 22, defaults and remedies. 22 and 22.1 and 22.2 should be in every contract. When you purchase a home, you have certain things that protect you in case you default or the seller defaults. What I mean by default is not performing an action in the contract. This is how lawsuits start. When the seller is supposed to do something, but he says, I don't want to do it, but it's in the contract, this gives you the remedy of what you can do. Every contract should have that, buyer and seller's remedy. A lot of times there's arbitration as well. Each state is different. Item number 23 is this list of all the documentation that needs to go between the buyer and seller, where to send it. So to the seller, his address goes here. To the buyer, his address goes here. Let's scroll up, please. Number 24 stipulates if we're going to be doing a 1031 exchange, that's just listed, no cost to you. Number 25 is miscellaneous. There's time is of the essence. This 25 talks about the agreement, warranties, amendments, and waivers. 25.5 is choice of law. Let's scroll up. Paragraph headings, assignment. Okay, 25.7. Let's talk about this real quick. 25.7. The rights of the buyer in this agreement can be assigned in whole or in part without the consent of the seller. All right. So basically, what this means is, if I wanted to assign this contract to Vicky, I can do that. If I want to assign this contract to my entity, which I will want to do, I can do that. Some contracts will say, no, we don't want any assignment allowed in this contract without the consent of the buyer. What they're doing is they want to protect you or protect themselves from you flipping the deal to someone else. Okay, so that's what they're doing. But you can, in the contract, we want to be able to assign it to our entity at the minimum. All right, litigation expense, just in case there is, who pays for what. Specific contingencies that we talked about before. The brokerage relationship, who they are. Here's more information about 1031 exchange. And then here is the signature page for the seller and the date. Here is the signature area for the buyer. Scroll up, please, for the buyer and the date. And Exhibit A gives a legal description of the contract. Okay, so this is a 15-page contract. So it's not too bad. I would say this is a decent contract. It has all of the things I think that are pretty good to be in a commercial contract. So you can see it's quite a bit more than a residential contract, but wasn't this somewhat understandable? There's some language there that you don't know about. That's okay. We get an attorney to really help us understand.